What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Post Game Locked On Bucks. And we got a win today. It was looking a little bit shaky there for a few minutes down the stretch. I was thinking we were going to have to decipher another disappointing loss. But fortunately, the Bucks pick up the win, and so they should have. Memphis, despite the fact they've been playing well, they were a little bit shorthanded. You're at home. You've lost 6 out of 8. You got to take care of business. So the Bucks did that 126 to 114. Giannis was pretty good. Khris was pretty good. There was a few other contributors along the way. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Bucks. I'm your host, Kane Pittman. You can see and hear me on this show daily and also find my work over at ESPN. And joining me, the founder of brewhoop.com and longtime voice of the podcast, Frank Madden. And as always, we thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen of every day, whether it's on the audio platforms, whether it's on YouTube, your first watch of every single day. We appreciate it either way. I mentioned it the other day. We've blown by 2K subs. We're on the road to 3. I don't want to set any goals yet, Frank, but we'll get to 3 before the end of end of Feb. We'll say end of Feb. We'll get to 3K before the end of Feb. But hey, more importantly, Frank, the Bucks got a win. And we were just chatting just briefly before we started recording, and they kind of just needed to pick up a win. They win at 126 to 114 in a game where I thought with 4 minutes to go, okay, that's comfortable. The guys are looking fine here. Next thing, it's back to 3 points, and I was thinking they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose this game of basketball. Fortunately, Giannis was the one who had a big dunk, had a nice turnaround as well, among another couple of buckets there. He closed the door. He finished with 33 points, but just a kind of a relief to pick up a win at home against a team that I mentioned were kind of shorthanded, and you should be.
Yeah, I think Bud in the post game highlighted George Hill and the idea of winning plays. And I know, especially with Drew being out in this losing streak, the fact that George Hill hasn't shot the ball well from 3, he obviously does not put up scoring volume that you'd sometimes like to have, especially when Drew is out. So I've seen some occasion, some notes of frustration. But again, the Bucks have been just really, really good when George Hill's been on the floor all year. And I want to start with him tonight because when that lead got down to 3, the Bucks get a stop. It looks like they're going to go the other way. I think it was Khris gets trapped along the baseline or along the sideline, trying to get, basically in the backcourt, and coughs the ball up. I mean, I forget which Grizzly it was. One of the Grizzlies, just came up with the ball, and then George Hill basically just came in and took it right back from him, and they go the other way and get a basket, and that kind of started just a quick run. I think that was when it was 113, 111, and I think that was when Giannis went on his personal, I know he scored 8 straight points. Again, or 114, I think it was 114, 111 at that point. And I think actually George Hill drew a foul driving kind of down the court. I think that was when George got 2 free throws to put it back up to 5. And then I think that was when Giannis then had those.
Well, it was kind of off the ball, wasn't it? It was kind of an ill-advised foul.
It was a bad foul. It was a bad foul.
It broke the pressure, it felt like.
Yeah, exactly. He was not he was out, he's 30 feet from the basket, I think, when he got fouled. And you look at the box score and George Hill had a big box score night. I mean, I doubt you'll find a better kind of box score from him this season. 5 out of 7, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, no turnovers, game high plus 16. He was really good. And he started again tonight with Drew, thankfully, back in the lineup, came off the bench, obviously kind of trying to ease him back in after the combination of COVID and then the ankle injury. So yeah, I think let's first give a shout out to George Hill. He's been steady, very unspectacular, I would say. And for that reason, probably maybe sometimes underappreciated, but certainly thrust into a bigger role than, I think anyone would want from him here in this recent stretch with Drew out, but really nice contributions from him. And again, just small plays like that. There were a couple of plays where, there were some contested rebounds that he came up with. And again, that one play, I think if you want to highlight a single play that, kind of stopped the bleeding for the Bucks there, where it looked like, oh my God, are they going to blow? They were 23-0 entering fourth quarters with leads until Atlanta on Monday. It looked almost like that 9-point lead going into the fourth quarter was in danger of being blown for a second straight loss. And again, just little things on the margins. And again, shout out to George Hill for going and getting the ball. And I forget I'm trying to remember if he had a play off a jump ball at some point as well.
Well, he should have won the jump ball, which was actually against
Oh,
Jaren Jackson
yeah.
Jr., which should have been against Conchar. So it was actually
that was the second time in the game when Conchar should have been jumping and they let
Yes.
Jaren Jackson jump it, which is just like, but anyway, yeah. So yeah, shout out to George Hill, big night from him. And, fortunately that set the stage for Giannis to kind of redeem, maybe a little bit dramatic, but he had missed 6 straight shots at one point there, kind of stretching from the late third into the fourth quarter. He was 9 out of 16 at one point. Then he misses 6 straight. He's 9 out of 22. Was getting frustrated. Not a good whistle for him tonight. A lot of physicality. He missed a couple shots in there, that he normally can make. His jump shot was not really there tonight until he has a couple attacking plays, and then he hits that kind of, let's call it a dagger kind of step back fade away against Jaren Jackson, which I don't know how Jaren Jackson was the one that fell down on that shot, but right. I think that was the one that put the Bucks. I think the Bucks put the Bucks up 11 at that point, and kind of sealed the game. So again, not Giannis's best night, and you look at the box score, third straight game where he's been under 50% from the field, 12 out of 25. But I mean, again, 33 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists. A block. He had that block. He battled foul trouble all night, just 31 minutes tonight. Actually, I shouldn't say all night, but picked up his third foul in the second quarter, and then picked up his fourth foul very early, I think with 8 minutes and change to go in the third, and then had to sit for like 5-6 minutes. But he had a really big block on Steven Adams on what looked like an easy putback, playing with those 4 fouls. I think it was late in the third. And then again, was he as aggressive defensively as maybe he normally is playing with those 5 fouls? No. There were definitely some plays that he had to concede to Jaren Jackson and Ja when they were attacking the basket. But again, that's part of what, kind of comes with the territory. His first 2 fouls were really stupid fouls and came kind of back to bite him when he started picking up other fouls thereafter. But, overall, again, just kind of being that workhorse Giannis night from him. And, certainly with Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams, those are a couple of very rugged, long bodies inside that he had to compete against. And, there were not many gimmies for Giannis in there tonight, and he really had to work for it. And again, that's why he's the MVP.
I wouldn't say he was specifically, as you pointed to, in foul trouble for the whole night, but the threat of foul trouble was always hovering over him because he picked up those fouls. And then you put yourself in the situation, if you do pick up early ones where you have that moving screen, which, by the way, I've always said this, I understand that it's difficult for the officials in the moment, but I think there's some plays where you can say, okay, well, this guy got hit in the shoulder and he's nearly broken his own neck by throwing his head back. I'm not going to call that foul. You know what I mean? Like some of it, I think, is common sense that I would like to see the officials use a little bit more. So I thought that was just for the pure acting. You don't get rewarded for that. That would be the way I would officiate a basketball game. But anyway.
By the way, I was a little disappointed. Bud ends up challenging the 6th foul, which, I mean, the Bucks were up like 9 or what they, you weren't really in danger of losing with 39 seconds left. Interestingly, they kind of win the challenge because there was basket interference, so it wasn't a 3-point play. They end up only getting a point out of it.
Yeah.
But he was just trying to hope that maybe Bobby Portis had been the one that fouled him, I think. Mm-hmm. But I actually was a little surprised. I think he got his 3rd foul on a charge on Steven Adams in the second quarter. And I didn't see a replay of it. It seemed like a pretty marginal charge call. And I thought maybe that they were going to challenge that call back then and see if they could get it. Because, again, then it obviously just, really puts pressure on him. And he's, also the fulcrum of the defense. And when he has to play really carefully, he's obviously just can't be as aggressive defensively as, he might otherwise be. Although, even in the fourth quarter, like we saw it, I mean, it's funny. Just when Giannis is around, I'd be fascinated to know what Jaren Jackson's shooting was with Giannis in his vicinity versus everybody else, because he just feasted when they had to, they put Pat Connaughton in for Giannis in the third quarter, and he just feasted on Pat. Pat's given up 7 inches, and they did a great job just kind of playing it over top to him. Bucks went into zone at one point. They were able to beat it through the middle, and he's got good touch. But it just seemed like whenever he was attacking like Giannis, shots were rimming out. And again, it's just, I mean, that's the impact of Giannis. But yeah, I mean, again, I think that was the first time. Did they say that's the first time he's fouled out all year? Is that actually right?
This season, I meant to check
yeah.
the box scores because it feels like I can't remember when the last time he would have at all. He's had early season issues a number of years, but then he kind of tends to figure it out.
Figures it out. Yeah. But either way, you know, the sixth foul coming when it did, not a huge deal. And it was interesting because Taylor Jenkins actually used his challenge on a screen that Giannis set, which was called a foul on the Grizzlies. He challenged that. I think that was that early in the fourth or late in the third. He was looking to get Giannis's fifth foul on an illegal screen that wasn't called. And, you know, it was just a Hail Mary. Like, it was clearly a foul on the Grizzly, who was sort of trying to plow through the screen. But yeah, it was, again, it you know, it was not like a work of art for Giannis tonight. But he obviously eventually gets the job done. And I think that kind of summed it up for the Bucks as well. Not a work of art. The final line, I don't know if it was a flattering kind of final score, you know, winning by 12. I mean, they led by kind of that range for most of the game, really, from kind of the second quarter onward, with the exception of a few, you know, kind of runs by the Grizzlies. But again, you know, you only need one run in this league. And the Grizzlies, I thought, just did a really nice job battling. And, you know, they've played so well shorthanded all year. I mean, when Ja was out, they went 10-2. I think when Ja was out, they're able to play at a really high level. They're really well coached. They're deep. And, you know, they were able to make runs even when Ja and Jaren Jackson weren't on the floor. So you kind of had to just be always on. And fortunately, third quarter, I think they got outscored by 3 in the third quarter, but again, avoided the kind of catastrophic third quarter that they've been tending to have lately. And then obviously down the stretch, they were able to kind of buckle down, lock in, and, you know, maybe got some bounces finally go their way and kind of take care of business.
I wouldn't have bet on the Bucks with a few minutes left to play because I would have been
not this week. I
would have been feeling pretty nervous about it. But if you had have, you would have been happy, and you could have done it at betonline.ag. And BetOnline is wishing you a happy new betting year as they continue the march towards the playoffs. Big week for the Packers, Frank. But BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action in 2022 new year. And there is a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today. And you'll receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit if you use the promo code LOCKEDON, whether you're betting on football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, whatever it may be. BetOnline is the place to go. It's the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. I should mention the Locked On Now podcast with our friend Peter Bukowski, Frank, and mostly because I was just on it. I just recorded on Peter. So if you're going to pick up a day to listen to the Locked On Now podcast, do it after Locked On Bucks. Obviously, if you're listening to this, go on. You can hear me talk about the Bucks. But I was talking with Peter about the Packers, and, you know, Pete, host of the Locked On Packers podcast as well, he's starting to get a little bit nervous. Frank, are you at that stage, at that point? Are you going to get nervous at any point?
Yeah, I mean, the history with San Francisco is not great. They did win kind of dramatically early in the year when the Niners, I think they had a bunch of injuries at the time, and that was kind of before they hit their stride. So, yeah, I don't know. And you know, going back to, I think it 2002, 2003 when Michael Vick and the Falcons beat them. Like, the Packers had, like, I think never lost or whatever at Lambeau Field in the playoffs, and then Michael Vick ran all over them, and they've just had a number of games at home. They've had a bunch of home playoff losses. So I don't know. My confidence is a little tenuous, and you know, just if you're a Packer fan, you know, kind of it's been a while since they obviously won a Super Bowl. I mean, you know, in the grand scheme of like the Bucks or something like that, like having to wait a decade to get another championship, obviously would you know, that feels like a short time, right? We had to wait 50 years for the Bucks, but I don't know. It just feels like things have generally kind of gone against them. They lost obviously in the NFC Championship game last year to Tampa Bay. So I am taking nothing for granted. There are definitely teams I would have felt better about in this game, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I'm a Bucks fan, you know, first, second, and third. I enjoy watching every Packer game, but I don't take it as personally as I do the Bucks. So I'm sure I would imagine Peter and you know, the really hardcore Packer fans are certainly feeling a little bit more anxiety because, at the end of the day, right? The Bucks last year in the playoffs, that first game, like, just always seemed to be got progressively. The first game of the series got progressively worse and worse as the playoffs went on, and unfortunately, in the NFL, you can't, you don't have the luxury of, a 7-game series to tell which team is really the best. It's, one game, and if you don't bring it, then you're done. So, I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited too. I mean, it's a really fun Packer team. So anyway, I think I've probably droned on enough about the Packers. And is this the part where we can talk about Khris Middleton? Because I feel like we really need to talk about Khris Middleton here, who had another really nice game tonight.
We can, but first I just want to say, for our listeners that are Packers and Bucks fans, I'm on your side. For those weirdos who are just Packers fans and don't care about the Bucks, you can get stuffed because there's only one sporting team in Wisconsin, and it's the world champion Milwaukee Bucks. All right, let's get to Khris Middleton. 27.
By the way, let me say this. Let me say this too, right?
So now you want to go back. All right, let's do it then.
It's cool that the Packers, that there are a lot of like random Packer fans, right? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know I haven't seen a poll on this recently, but I would guess that like among NFL teams, the Packers and the Cowboys probably have like the most random like fan bases that are not tied to like geography.
Plenty in
right?
Australia, I can tell you.
Yeah, and I've met some of those people just in my life. Like, people are just like, oh, this guy I worked with from Massachusetts, he just became a Packer fan because it's just a super likable franchise. But like on Twitter, I mean, I follow a fair bit of Packer people, like Peter Bukowski. Shout out to Andy Herman, another great Packer follower, Packer podcaster, Packer writer. I know Andy sometimes listens to Locked On Bucks as well. I sometimes I'll like wade in and I'll like look at some of these people tweeting that like get retweeted in my timeline, and there's a lot of like Packer Twitter fans that are like Packers, Lakers, Dodgers, or like they're like very like front runner type. Well, maybe not the Lakers being front runners this year, but like very like, okay, like I don't respect your favorite team choices, and then they're Packer fans too, which I guess I have to sort of like them for that. So yeah, let's just say like Bucks fans, like we're a heartier bunch on the whole, right? There are a lot of Bucks fans, obviously, that are Packer fans. Probably a lot more Packer fans that are just randomly Packer fans and don't like the Bucks. So to those of you who are the real Wisconsin sports fans who love the Packers and the Bucks, shout out to you guys. None of these bandwagon types. Although we love bandwagon Bucks fans, obviously. So anyway, we've talked way too much about the Packers. Khris Middleton, talk to me about Khris Middleton for tonight.
Well, this was interesting because something I've been just thinking about when it comes to the Bucks, and I think it's exacerbated by the fact that Brook Lopez isn't out on the floor, and certainly when Drew Holiday isn't there as well, and particularly as you pointed to when Giannis isn't out on the floor, I do think the Bucks are susceptible to struggle against athletic teams, because I wouldn't describe the Bucks as the most athletic team going around in the NBA. Obviously, Giannis is a freak, but outside of that. And there was a stretch in this game, to me anyway, as I was watching, where I thought the Bucks were going to be in danger. And Marcus Johnson on repeat was saying, well, you got to be careful here, got to be careful here. And part of the reason was Giannis spent a fair bit of time off the floor through the third quarter, and he was sort of hovering around that foul trouble. But there was just a really important stretch. I believe it was the start of the fourth quarter. It might have been late in the third, where Khris Middleton hit a couple of buckets. We were talking about his footwork the other night. I know they brought it up in the broadcast, but that move where he gets to around the free throw line area, shakes one way, goes the other. No one's getting near him. He did it at critical times during the postseason run. It's just so beautiful. The defender has literally no chance. They can't physically move their body quick enough to get back to him. And that's where I talk about Khris Middleton not being athletic, but he's so smooth, understands those movements. I just thought it was really important from Khris, that stretch where he had a couple of buckets in a row. He went for a three, which was very quick in transition, and he was clearly feeling himself at that point, a pull-up three in transition that didn't go. But again, this has been an extended stretch now for him. 27 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. I don't know, but he missed a little bit of time, obviously, going back a little while ago. And he's been one of the guys that we spoke about. Well, he didn't really have a break from the playoffs through to the Olympics, through to the start of the season. Obviously, there was a little stretch there. But I don't know. He looks like maybe, in a weird way, he benefited from having a little bit of time off, because he didn't start the season. He wasn't poor, but he wasn't having these types of performances. It was rare that he was putting up the sort of 25-point scoring numbers that have been pretty regular over the last couple of weeks. But I thought he was really important tonight to keep the scoring ticking over, particularly when Giannis was off the floor.
Yeah, especially with Drew obviously coming off the bench, and Drew, he was rusty, right? There were a couple moments where Drew like he tried to like just blow through like two defenders for no real reason, like at midcourt, and cough the ball up, and just he's kind of still getting back, which is one of the reasons why it kind of sucked that he started missing time here lately, because he's been playing so well, right? So you hope that he kind of can quickly get back into things. But yeah, I mean, Khris is obviously, really settled in. And it was interesting. There was, looking at his numbers, he has actually the highest 3-point rate of his career this year. So in terms of percentage of his shots that are from 3-point range, he's at 41.9% of his shots are threes. Last year was 34%. And interestingly, the closest comp to this is the first year of Bud, actually, when he took 41.3% of his threes, or of his shots as threes. And interesting, he was at 37.8% from three that year, which obviously is the second lowest number of his Bucks career. And he's now he came into this game at 39% even, so it has been inching up, right? It was in like the low 30s for a while, and it's been progressively getting higher and higher. Tonight 1 for 6, so it'll kind of take a little bit of a tick down, but yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, he has not been as just crazy lights out on the long twos. I mean, 2 years ago he was 55% from 16 to the 16 feet to the 3-point line. Last year 44%. This year only, quote unquote, only 40%. And interesting, in floater range, he's only shooting 30% this year. He's been like a 45 to 49% guy the last couple of years, but he has been a lot better at the rim, all the way up to 74% from 65% last year. So his kind of efficiency is like kind of up and down all over the place a little bit. Really hasn't been getting the rim, career low in terms of getting to the rim rate this year. But overall, like, the efficiency has definitely been kind of ticking in definitely the right direction. And, if you told me like a few weeks ago, like, hey, like, we're talking about all-star candidacy and all that, like, where do Drew and Khris fit into that? I would have said, well, obviously, Drew has been kind of the clear second best Buck this year. And Khris just hasn't been quite at that level yet, right? But kudos to Khris. I mean, he's been playing really, really well of late. And you just sort of take for granted, right? Like, just kind of what he's able to do night in and night out. Tonight, to put up the big numbers, and perhaps most importantly, 1 turnover, right? Turnovers have been an issue of late. He's at a career high 3.8 turnovers per 36. He's never been above 2.8 previously, but you look at his numbers otherwise. The assists, career high in terms of assists per minute, 6 per 36. The playmaking obviously has been really important with Drew out, and we know late in games, crunch time, bread and butter for them is putting the ball in Khris's hands with Giannis screening and letting Khris kind of be the quarterback and the decision maker. So yeah, I thought Khris just very in control tonight, and even 1 out of 6. Tonight's a bit different. Like, he's really relied on that 3-point shot this year for his efficiency. Hasn't been as good on 2-point shots. He's, put in percent, 2 years ago, he was around 55% on twos when he was basically 50, 40, 90. Last year, 51% on twos. This year, just 46%. But tonight, 9 out of 12 on 2-point shots. That was important. And as you said, he just got to the spots he wanted. He was hunting Ja Morant, got a three-point play on him early. And the Grizzlies just didn't quite have enough size and physicality to sort of throw him off.
So you're an assistant coach. You've got the deciding vote for the All-Star reserves, Coach Madden. Right now, today, based on what we've seen, would you be giving your vote to Drew or Khris?
I would still give it to Drew, I think. I think just his overall kind of play this year, I think just has been a bit better. You look at like kind of the on-off numbers. I think those all favor Drew. You look at sort of like the advanced metrics, like kind of the all-in-one stats, all the like kind of adjusted plus minus type stats all show Drew as being an elite player, and Khris has actually been kind of underwhelming, at least relative to what he was, especially 2 years ago. So I think it's still Drew. I would obviously love it if they could find a way to get all 3 Bucks on the All-Star team. I think that's going to be really tough, especially if you're sitting at fourth or fifth place, right? Like,
yeah, I think they're having one. I don't think they're
yeah,
getting more than one, to be honest.
yeah. I would be content if Drew gets it, and part of it too is just because Drew hasn't gotten into it in
Exactly.
what, like a dozen years or something, or not 10 years, I think, right? I think 2013 he was an All-Star in Philly. So yeah, I think it'd be cool for Drew just because, again, I think he's been a bit better defensively. I think he's just much better than regular season Khris in particular. Not that postseason Drew is not much better than postseason Khris, because he's just better, period. But I think Khris has definitely picked his spots, let's say, defensively more this year. Drew does that a little bit too, but his baseline of defense is just so high that you don't worry about it. And by the way, I think as a sign of just how versatile and good Drew Holiday is, I thought it was really interesting. There were a few possessions in the fourth quarter where they put Drew on. It was when George and Drew were both in the game, and they had George on Ja Morant, and they had Drew Holiday on Jaren Jackson, and basically saying, all right, if you want to go into that 1-4, 1-5 pick and roll with Triple J screening for Ja, well, guess what? Like, if you want to switch, you're getting Drew Holiday on the switch, or Drew can pretty much do anything, right? He can hedge and recover. He can do whatever he wants because he's super mobile and super smart. So I thought that was kind of an interesting wrinkle the Bucks threw in there, because obviously they had been having a lot of success exploiting smaller guys on with Jaren Jackson, but obviously Drew, not your typical smaller guy.
All right, a couple Giannis things here. First of all, the last time he fouled out in a game was actually Game 5 against Brooklyn, a game that the Bucks, a heartbreaker, actually. A game the Bucks would have liked to win in Brooklyn, Game 5. So that
must have been like the last. That must have been like the last.
Yeah, I can't
20
remember.
seconds or something. That was like when they were like probably fouling late to try to. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Because he had that play. He had that play where he, like, remember Khris dropped it off for Giannis and he couldn't handle it. That could have tied it or something like that. That was like in the last minute, I think. So yeah, it was a very late foul. Probably a fouling for free throws type situation.
And the other thing I want to bring up is I've got a pretty serious bone to pick with Drew Holiday for for attempting that steal on Ja Morant as he was about to try and dunk on Giannis. And looking at the replay, Giannis, I'm not actually, and look, Ja Morant, by the way, has proven that he has got some shit going on in his shoes or whatever. He's not human. I don't know what's happening with how he can jump so high. But Giannis was like elbow at the rim. And I wanted to see what happened. But Drew Holiday fouled him and took away the opportunity to either see an incredible block, but either way, just an absolutely absurd dunk attempt from Ja Morant, who is not scared about trying it with absolutely anyone.
Yeah, and in lifetime, it looked almost like Giannis blocked it, but it kind of got knocked away, and Giannis kind of just went straight up, and then there was they were both laughing because Ja ends up grabbing the rim, and Giannis ends up kind of holding him, hugging him as he's hanging up there. That would have been nice. I mean, it was interesting because the Bucks, and we saw this a couple of years ago, maybe even 1 year ago. The Bucks were basically like daring Ja Morant to shoot threes in previous years when that was still an issue. And tonight he's been much better this year. He's been in a slump of late, but he obviously ended up hitting some threes. He hit that one super long one, which I think was late in the shot clock. Yeah. But even so, I mean, they were, if there was a screen kind of high, they were defaulting to going under. If it was like, do I go over or under? They were going under, basically saying, all right, we'll live with, Ja kind of having to do a quick trigger three as we try to scramble under the screen and get back out. I think they generally did okay walling him off from like getting to the rim. But he is a really good, he's got a really good floater. He got to that spot a bunch and was really effective there. But the last laugh, Kane, goes to Bobby Portis, who with the Bucks up 12, and I don't know if there was under 10 seconds left, Ja wheeling around baseline trying to get another quick bucket there at the very end, and Bobby blocks him as he was obviously not like at the rim or anything like that, but he's kind of trying to go like do a little reverse, and Bobby just comes over and blocks him, which coaches might have just said, hey, just concede don't go fouling or
I
something
didn't
like
even
that.
see this, but it's very funny.
So I really enjoyed that Bobby Portis ends up getting a block on Ja Morant there at the very end, just to be like, hey, Ja, yeah, we're going to keep this a 12-point game here and leave it there.
All right. You know what the best news of tonight was? And it surprisingly didn't happen during the Bucks and Grizzlies game. It was elsewhere in the NBA.
What?
The Bulls won, which means that the Bucks don't have to play the Bulls on a 5-game losing streak, which, by the way, as we learned with the Atlanta game, we were fearful of it. Atlanta came back. They broke the streak. We don't need the Bulls breaking any streaks. So, who knows what's going to happen in the Chicago game in a couple of days' time. First time the Bucks have played the Bulls all season, which continues to be weird, but whatever. They're going to get acquainted here over the next few weeks. But the Bulls won. They beat the Cavs. That's great. It's great.
I was gonna say. I mean, I've been in full like root against the Bulls mode here because of how well they've been playing. But yeah, I didn't think of the jinx factor. And I mean, the Bulls. Zach LaVine has been out with this knee injury since last week. I'm guessing we probably don't see him on Friday. Lonzo Ball's out with a knee injury. I think they've gotten Alex Caruso back. Derek Jones Jr., who is like kind of the only he was starting at the 4. He's kind of the only like obvious guy to defend Giannis that they kind of had in their rotation. So I'm really curious to see kind of defensively just how they match up, because I mean, I think as everybody knows, like, I mean, DeMar DeRozan has played a ton of power forward for them this year. And obviously I don't think they're going to march DeMar DeRozan out there to try to shut down Giannis. But we'll see. And hey, at least they beat the Cavs tonight, right? Since
exactly.
The Cavs, are actually closer to the Bucks in the standings, and I think that bumped the Cavs back below the Bucks in the standings. So I think what the Bucks were at 6th like midway through this game, and then they are now back up to 4th, I believe, right?
Correct. They're 4th. They're 2 games back of the Bulls, who are back at the top of the East. Philadelphia and Cleveland are 2.5 games back. So yeah, they would have been 5th. Cavs lost. Whatever. It's all bunched up there at the top anyway. And one other note from around the league: Mo Bamba had 32 points tonight for the Orlando Magic, which further solidifies the fact that they have Robin Lopez is surplus to needs in Orlando. He already was. Hand him over. Come on, Johnny. Come on, Johnny Hammond.
Here, by the way, here's the Bulls starting 5 tonight. DeMar DeRozan, obviously. Nick Vucevic, as you'd expect. Kobe White, who has returned from injury somewhat recently. Ayo Dosunmu, I think that's how you pronounce it. We talked about him like during like the kind of draft prep. He was a guy that a lot of us were kind of like, oh, interesting guy. Leading up to the draft, he's been a rotation guy for them. He had 18 points on 8 shots. He has not shot the ball well this year, I don't think, but 18 points and 8 assists tonight. So he was very good. But Alfonso McKinney played 5 minutes as the starting power forward. So yeah, they're a very small team right now. They did bring Tony Bradley off the bench, but Troy Brown Jr. played 26 minutes. Alex Caruso is back in the lineup, which is big for them. He's obviously been a great addition. And Wisconsin, I guess I was gonna say former Wisconsinite, but you never, once you're Wisconsin, always Wisconsinite. Matt Thomas played 24 minutes tonight for the Bulls as well. So they are definitely dealing with some injuries. We'll see what the injury report for them is looking like on Friday. But again, I mean, let's assume at least Ball is out, probably LaVine as well. Playing at home, Brook Lopez is, knock on wood, going to be the only guy that you'd expect to be on the injury report for the Bucks on Friday, really. Again, you got to take care of business here. And with this win tonight, Friday against the Bulls, and then you've got the Kings coming on Saturday. Again, I do not want to be too presumptuous with the way the Bucks have been playing lately, but kind of a nice little opportunity to opportunistically chalk up some wins against a Bulls team that obviously is not at full strength, and then a Kings team that obviously is not that good playing on the road. And by the way, is beset by trade rumors about them potentially moving various guys and Ben Simmons trades and things like that.
Yep, that's 7 p.m. Friday night, that game against the Bulls. In the meantime, check out the Locked On Bets podcast with your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. Well, I'll have you covered with all the betting action. I don't know. The Bucks will be favourites in this game. They're probably better in the health department. Knock on wood, as we record this right now. We'll see what happens over the.
They better be. I mean,
hey,
yeah, they better be favorites. I mean, a home game against the Bulls. Come on, like I know what the standings say, but and by the way, I thought it was interesting. I mean, we're always trying to figure out this, like, where is the rotation going to land? Obviously, in the playoffs. We saw before the last time they were healthy, I think, was when Boogie was still around, and we saw them run out 10 guys, including Boogie, and basically the 9 guys we saw tonight. So they're down to basically a 9-man rotation. Essentially, Jordan Nwora, Rodney Hood, Shemi Ojeleye, Sandro Thanasis, those guys are all healthy scratches right now. The 4 guys that came off the bench, Drew Holiday, obviously will swap in for George Hill on Friday. But basically your bench right now, George Hill, Wes Matthews, Pat Connaughton, and Dante. That is a very small bench. Pat Connaughton at 6'4", 6'5", is your backup small forward. And, again, a lot of nights that's fine. You can kind of get away with it. But it is a bit different, obviously, from kind of what we're used to seeing from the Bucks when Brook Lopez has been healthy in previous years. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. And by the way, it's never going to happen, but Dante DiVincenzo tonight, 0 for 5, 0 for 3 from 3. Was a +5, had 2 blocks, had a steal, 2 assists, 5 rebounds. So, I mean, his activity level is still there. He's just so snake bit right now offensively. Like, I don't expect that they're going to send him down to the herd for just a tune-up game. But I feel like he could really benefit if there's a couple days off for the Bucks where he can just sneak up to Oshkosh and just play a game with the herd and just make a couple layups in a competitive game of basketball and see the ball go through the basket a little bit. I feel like that could really help him, because right now, man, it is just rough. I think he's 1 for 16 on 2-point shots this season. The offense is just a real struggle right now. He's obviously trying to get his rhythm back. I feel bad for him because obviously he's coming back from the injury and, just nothing's going right for him. But I don't know. That is my brainstorm. Just let Dante go to the herd and cook for a game to see if he can get his mojo back a little bit. But at a minimum, this is why it's at least good that he does other stuff. He makes winning plays other than putting the ball in the hole, because right now that part isn't happening.
Yeah, there's a reason he gets minutes and some of the other players don't, and it's because of that, because Bud probably feels that he can ride through some of the shooting struggles. And also, I'm sure that they're sitting there internally thinking, come on, let's turn a corner here in one of these games. Hey, why not make it Friday night against the Bulls? Camille's going to be on the podcast tomorrow, so I'll be chatting with Camille tomorrow. Then the Bucks will have this game against the Bulls, but we'll talk about it a little bit more on tomorrow's show. If you missed yesterday, we spoke lots of Giannis with Zora Stevenson. She's always insightful, fantastic to have on the pod. So if you missed that one, jump in and listen to that as well. But other than that, we'll leave it there for Frank and myself. We will catch you guys tomorrow.